Tomorrow, 48 First Alert weather day. It's going to be a windy day after a morning round of
Well, hello everyone and happy Valentine's Day. It is digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Before the Four, the live stream where I take you through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscast. As always, wherever you're watching Before the Four today, whether that is on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream, as always, I have to thank you for watching and spending just a little bit of your Valentine's Day or Friday here with me. But now let's begin with the weather, as storms are expected to roll in over the weekend with even more rain and thunderstorms before a drop in temperatures next week. But let's turn it over to 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis with a first look at the latest forecast. Brad?
Tomorrow, 48 First Alert weather day. It's going to be a windy day after a morning round of showers and storms. The strong and potentially severe storms probably don't move in across the state line from Mississippi until after 10 o'clock, but we're going to keep a close eye on all of this. Nothing out there now, but it's overnight tonight. We'll see some showers, a few thunderstorms very early in the morning with temperatures in the 40s. 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. areas out to the west over northwest Alabama up to Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Keep in mind, this is most likely going to end up being a line of thunderstorms that moves through. Within that line, some isolated damaging wind gusts approaching 60 miles per hour. And a spin-up tornado threat is there. We're talking EF1 type tornado, maybe EF0, at most EF2 from this, depending on how all of it comes together. But I don't think we're going to see the supercells develop ahead of it. But of course, we'll keep an eye on that. Midnight to 2 a.m. Huntsville metro area down into Coleman County, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. in northeast Alabama. Still looking at a lot of wind with this line. Here's tomorrow morning, and I want to make sure you're aware, after tomorrow morning's showers and thunderstorms, we're going to have several hours of just dry weather, warm weather, and windy weather. So by noon tomorrow, the winds out of the south sustained at 15 to 20 and gusting over 30 miles an hour. And then as we get late into the evening, that wind increases, and we're going to talk wind gusts 40 to 45 miles per hour. We'll probably see a wind advisory issued, and these are all winds, the pressure gradient force wind, nothing associated with storms. A very warm, muggy night tomorrow night, too, ahead of this line of thunderstorms. Notice by 11 o'clock, they start moving to the east. Very slow movement to the east, so very heavy rain in a short period of time. Probably 1 to 2 inches of rain in a 2-hour time period. Notice approaching the Huntsville metro area up to Fayetteville right around 1 in the morning. Keep in mind, we'll likely have a tornado watch. There's a lot of wind shear. There's not a lot of instability, so the hail threat's probably a little bit lower than it normally would be for a severe weather threat, but we'll keep an eye on large hail potential too. Notice 3 o'clock in the morning, finally moving out. Over the next 3 days, tomorrow's First Alert weather day, a windy, the last warm day too. We're back in the 40s next week, and we're right on the rain snow line for Wednesday, something else we'll be talking about.
Certainly good to know. Thank you, Brad. And yesterday, as part of 48's team coverage on the flooding we've been seeing here across the Tennessee Valley, 48's Callie Neese was in Lawrence County reporting on the flooding there. As yesterday, several roads remained underwater, leaving a delivery driver stuck. Take a look.
The flooding here hasn't gone down much. As you can see behind me, many of the roads, like this one here in Lawrence County, are starting to look like rivers. These photos were taken last night by the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. They, along with other responders, arrived to help save a FedEx driver who got stuck in the flooding. Scott Norwood from the Cortland Fire Department was here on the scene last night, and he says when they arrived, the delivery driver was on the hood of his van. While the driver is okay, he says this is a good example of why you should never drive on flooded roads.
And I'm like, that's why it's important. You know, if you don't know the roadways, you know, if they're covered in water, don't try to cross it.
Volunteer firefighters got on the scene to help the FedEx driver, and they had to call for additional help to get the driver to safety.
We don't have any dive teams in the county. We have to rely on Morgan County rescue squad, and they're the next county over. So it's imperative that the people don't do this.
I attempted to find the FedEx van, but the roads are so flooded here, there was no way through to see if it was still there. Reporting in Lawrence County, Callie Neese, 48 News, on your side.
Now in Morgan County, where 2 minors were detained after authorities say they ran away from police during a traffic stop in Hartselle early this morning. The Morgan County Sheriff's Office says a Hartselle police officer attempted a traffic stop on a vehicle around 2 a.m. The vehicle fled from the scene but was located by Morgan County deputies on Vaughn Bridge Road. The vehicle eventually ran into a field on Taylor Road near Ironman Road. Deputies say they found 2 13-year-olds in the vehicle. They were detained and referred to the juvenile probation. But now a story in Huntsville, where in yesterday morning's city council meeting, city leaders spoke about the destruction of the old city hall along with expansion coming to Huntsville's Big Spring Park. 48's Nick Ballinger on those new developments.
Pretty soon, Huntsville residents will see big changes at Big Spring Park. The $2 to $3 million project to completely change the east side of the park is already underway.
Love to brag about our new city hall, but the question everybody always asks is what happens to the old one?
Tonight, Councilwoman Jenny Robinson and other city leaders learned the old city hall will be demolished by June of this year. Robinson is not sad to see it go.
I do not miss the old city hall at all. I got stuck in the elevator there twice. The bathrooms were just awful.
Along with demolition plans, we're also getting a first look at what the completed replacement project will look like. A new multi-leveled plaza in green space is set to be finished by the end of 2026. Along with a new playground, an event center will sit atop the hill across the street from the new city hall.
Not only does it add to the park, but it adds public spaces that people will be able to enjoy on a regular basis, can be used for events, so it really increases the functionality.
Public bathrooms, ADA accessible ramps, and public art spaces are all reasons Robinson believes Huntsville residents should be excited.
Everything here is just so much better, and that space is going to be even better.
And staying in Huntsville, 48's Noah Cowell tells us more about the extended stay hotel fire that left over 120 people searching for a new place to stay. Noah Cowell with the update.
Over 120 adults and children were displaced after the hotel fire Tuesday morning. 15 of them came here to the First Seventh-day Adventist Church here in Huntsville. It's operating currently as a temporary shelter, but many of the people staying here are wondering where they'll go next. With help from the Red Cross, these guests are offered 3 meals a day, a place to sleep, and Shower Up comes by every afternoon since the church doesn't have proper shower facilities.
Everybody is welcome in this place to be able to find lodging, find rest, reprieve, and just know that they are loved by us, but most of all, loved by God.
Danielle Reynolds is one of the 15 guests, and she appreciates everything Red Cross and the church have done for her and her 2 sons, but she knows they need a long-term plan soon. She paid for a month in advance at the hotel, and even if she gets her refund, she says she can't currently afford any other places to stay that meet her family's needs.
If the GM doing everything she can do, I understand that, but I just feel like it's something more that could have been done, even if it was communicating better. If I paid up for the month and I get displaced, I just would like the people over the hotel to say, well, we could put you here, you know what I'm saying, then the money that you paid can cover you.
Reynolds says everything her family owns is still back at that hotel. She doesn't have a car, so there's nowhere for her things to go until they find a more permanent place to stay. Reporting in Huntsville, Noah Cowell, 48 News on your side.
And now moving out to Arab, where City Mayor Bob Jocelyn announced at yesterday morning's State of the City some major developments soon to come. 48 Savannah Sapp was at the State of the City, and take a look at what's in the works.
Mayor Bob Jocelyn tells me that the city of Arab is definitely growing. More and more people are just looking to locate here. With that population growth, however, the city is looking to improve roads, sidewalks, and even housing. And they're looking to build a brand new high school. Jocelyn announced today that the Arab City Schools District has been approved to bid on plans for that brand new high school. He says more and more people are moving into the area for the highly accredited school district, and students need room to grow. He and other city leaders are also working to bring more than 80 single-family homes to city limits. The road department is also working on making improvements to roads and sidewalks in the downtown area. This is a look at some of that work already underway. Jocelyn says this is all a part of upholding the quality of life in the city of Arab.
We want to have a rounded out community with good small town atmosphere, quality of life, good recreation facilities, and just a homey atmosphere for people to live, work, and raise a good family.
Also during his address today, Mayor Jocelyn urged everyone to continue to support those locally owned businesses here in the city so that they could continue to grow and welcome more residents and more businesses. In Arab, I'm Savannah Sapp, 48 News, on your side.
Some exciting things for sure. But now, as we celebrate Black History, 48's Matthew King reported on the Madison County Remembrance Project, which is working to shine a light and inform the community on the county's dark past. Matthew King with more.
These victims did not get justice.
On March 21, 1890, Robert Mosley became one of those victims. The 16-year-old was accused of sexual impropriety by a white woman, a similar accusation that led to the lynching death of Emmett Till in Mississippi. The teenager's brutal beating sparked major changes nationwide, cracking down on lynchings.
Telling their stories is important. I think it's important to tell the truth. It's important to educate. It's important to bring people together.
Mosley's story is now permanently etched into metal in this historical marker along Higdon Road. It serves as a reminder of how his life ended and how he's not the only one who saw the same fate. This work was done by the Madison County Remembrance Project. The group has worked since 2017 to fund and place these historic markers near the spot of a dark moment in county history.
So I think it's important to educate and that we all know, because unless you want to know this history, you don't. I mean, you need to seek it out.
It's a personal mission for David Person and Amy Jackson, who both worked on the marker for the Remembrance Project. The first marker was installed in December, but the pair tell me they plan to commemorate at least 10 other lynchings in Madison County alone, including 5 lynchings in front of the Madison County Courthouse, 1 in the area of Ditto Landing, and at least 3 other sites across the county.
A less triggering way to help people to conceptualize what happened and to indicate sort of the impact, the visceral impact that it has.
Person says it's a permanent stain on the area that can only be washed away with time and understanding.
This process, this commemoration, this recognition of these lynchings, I think is part of that redemptive process. You know, we don't see this as a way to promote hate or division. We see this as a way to provide a vehicle for redemption, for healing.
In Huntsville, Matthew King, 48 on your side.
Now coming up after the break, we'll talk about the latest bill that has now passed through the state Senate on illegal immigration, gold prices rising in value, and speaking with 48 sports director Carl Prather on tomorrow's big game between #1 ranked Auburn Tigers and the #2 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. It's all ahead. I'll see you in 1 minute. Well, hello and welcome back to Before the Four. Now in state news, a trio of illegal immigration bills have now passed through the Alabama Senate. Rosanna Smith with WSFA breaks them all down for us.
The Senate Republicans are working hard in trying to assist President Trump in his goal of securing the border and getting us back to a safe state that we used to be.
Senator Lance Bell is the sponsor of Senate Bill 63, which moved forward in a 24-7 vote. The bill requires law enforcement agencies to fingerprint and get DNA samples from undocumented immigrants in their custody and turn them over to state law enforcement.
So we're just trying to capture the ones that are committing the criminal acts.
I want to offer the amendment. Before passing Senate Bill 55, which would invalidate out-of-state driver's licenses issued without legal presence verification, an amendment was adopted that would allow drivers coming into the state to be notified via signage. The sponsor of this bill, Senator Chris Elliott, says the penalty is a citation.
The goal is to let illegal immigrants know that if, unless they have proof of lawful presence, unless they're here legally, that they shouldn't be in Alabama.
The Senate also altered Senate Bill 53 that bans transporting immigrants without status into Alabama. The bill was amended to take out the crime of concealing, and there were provisions added to the crime of human smuggling to avoid unintended consequences.
If someone is here and they're going to a court case, since Alabama doesn't have an immigration court, they would either go to New Orleans or Atlanta, so it would help cover that. It would also prevent schools. If a school is going across state lines and they have someone who is in the country illegally, it would prevent the schools from being charged with the human smuggling component.
It's a lot better than what it was.
Senate Minority Leader Democrat Bobby Singleton offered those amendments. He says while he believes this trio of bills is premature, it took compromising from both sides of the aisle to get these bills to where they are.
We deal with a lot of these unintended consequences that we think that are there in those bills. And, once we go through it and try to work, we see that as a win.
Now moving on to national news, gold prices are soaring to record highs, with the surge beginning after President Trump's election win, and the price continues to climb amid fears of a trade war. Kathy Park reports.
Lately, it seems all that glitters is gold.
'Cause I've got a golden ticket.
The price of the precious yellow metal on the rise.
It's all-time high.
So, are we seeing a modern-day gold rush?
An epidemic hit the nation. Gold fever.
Here in the States and around the globe, the price of gold is going up to record highs. Today, just under $3,000 an ounce, accelerated by President Trump's win in November.
Gold prices are up almost 35%.
Now, they're continuing to skyrocket after the president followed through on his ambitious tariff policies on China and now on all aluminum and steel imports, raising fears of a serious trade war.
If they charge us, we charge them.
Traders see it as a long-term hedge against the president's potentially destabilizing policies. And suddenly, some of that sentimental gold jewelry around the house has a new shine. Maybe it's validation of those spontaneous gold purchases at Costco.
Costco's gold bars are now bringing in as much as $200 million a month.
The big box store getting into the precious metal business, selling bars for around $2,000 back in December 2023. Now, those same bars worth nearly $3,000. So, is it time to cash in or hold your gold?
If you think things are going to stay at this level of volatility or get more volatile, then I would be keeping grandma's rings in your pocket for as long as possible.
With some analysts saying the price still hasn't hit a ceiling.
I think gold can continue to go higher.
In my opinion, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
If you're like Nelly, or were just inspired by the telly,
avoid disappointment and future regret. Call now.
For now, those investments are worth their weight in, well, gold. Kathy Park, NBC News.
Love some gold, that is for sure. But now let's talk about the basketball Iron Bowl tomorrow night. Certainly a game for the books, as it will mark the first ever matchup between two SEC opponents ranked 1 and 2. So much is at stake for both squads tomorrow night, and some say it's the biggest game in the history of the rivalry. Earlier today, I spoke with 48 Sports Director Carl Prather about what's at stake for both the Tide and the Tigers tomorrow night. Take a listen. I'll talk a little about what's at stake here. Obviously, the number 1 and number 2 teams in college basketball. Would you say this is the biggest game in the history of this rivalry?
Yeah, no question. And I know we don't want to kind of be prisoners of the moment and because we're here and not having any sort of revisionist history, but relative to the magnitude of this game, but more importantly, the fact that this has never happened within the Southeastern Conference and the storied history of basketball within this league to have number 1 and number 2 face off against each other in conference play. First time in history, that stands alone on its own, right, in its own merit. But when you consider both of these two teams, the fact that they're quality basketball teams, not a team that maybe kind of navigated through with some teams losing within the top 10. They've kind of held steady and firm within that top 10 and now in the top 5 this season. So the game is huge because all eyes are on the state of Alabama on Saturday for the college basketball world. And I think it's just an amazing moment, an amazing time in what's been historically, arguably, and it's really maybe not even be arguably, AJ, that this may be the best conference in the history of college basketball when you consider the amount of teams that are in the top 25, the amount of teams that potentially could make the NCAA tournament. You have 4 of the 5 teams in the league that are inside the top 5, 9 in the top 25 this week. And if you look at a myriad of other NCAA tournament projections and prognosticators, they have as many as 13 teams out of the 16-team member conference that could potentially reach the big dance in the NCAA tournament. If they reach 11, they would tie the Big East record from 2011, and of course, if they hit 12 plus, they will have the most conference bids in the history of the 68 and 64 team format. So a lot at stake, and really one of the big things at stake, as a lot of fans would love to discuss when we talk about seeding in the NCAA tournament. The winner of this game will obviously notch a big quad 1 win, courtesy of the Ken Palm. But then the other part about this is, if you win your sole possession in the SEC at 11-1, and then you kind of have an inside track with under 30 days to go with becoming the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. And what that means is basically your road to potentially a Final Four and an Elite 8 in that regional format gets a little easier as you navigate through the field of 68. So resume building is always huge for teams at this time of year, but for Alabama Auburn, if you can notch one of the wins against one another in part 1 of a scheduled 2 matchup season here, it can be very, very huge. Trying to get some easy 2s and some shots that you're consistently used and accustomed to making. Not trying to play any kind of quote-unquote hero ball or try to win this all by yourself. What makes this team so great at Auburn is the sum of the parts. They have a potential Wooden Player of the Year front runner in Janai Broome, and then of course all of the surrounding pieces around him at guard like Miles Kelly, Tahad Pettiford, our own Denver Jones, who's from Buckhorn High School in Newmarket, Alabama. A lot of those pieces, they all work together, and that's what makes them so great because of their depth and how well they play on offense. As for Alabama, I think the big thing is just try to limit the turnovers. I know that Nate Oates discussed that earlier today. He would love for some of his key players to stop turning the basketball over. Mark Sears, of course, is the point guard there. Tide fans do remember, last Saturday, had 14 turnovers in that game against Arkansas. Was able to hold off the Razorbacks in that game, but making sure you're limiting the turnovers and kind of keeping Auburn in it is kind of key as well. So those are my 2 keys there. Weathering the storm if you're Auburn, and then the flip side, if you're Alabama, limiting the turnovers to continue to create efficient opportunities in the half court.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Broome. I remember watching Broome a few years ago play at Morehead State back when I was covering Belmont basketball. At Morehead State in the OVC tournament, and it is crazy to see how he has developed as a player. Certainly going to be an exciting matchup tomorrow for sure.
It really is, and what makes it so great, AJ, and for those watching across the area, is the fact that you have two quality teams. It's not like you have a team that maybe found a way to navigate up to the number 2 spot or the number 1 spot. These are two of the best teams, and not the two best teams in all of college basketball. And both teams have great players, great personnel, and more importantly, they have great coaching and coaching staff. So both of these two programs, they may not have talked about it last week, but kind of saw it on the horizon. I think they're all prepared to play part 1 of a scheduled a 2-round bout. As we like to say, both of these two teams will meet to end the regular season finale on the Plains inside Neville Arena on March 8th.
Very exciting. Well, Carl, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. No problem, AJ.
Yes, that is going to be one of the big games of the season, without a doubt. Probably the best rivalry game in the history of its rivalry. But now let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. Speaking with a poultry expert on the bird flu, 48 Savannah Sapp will have that story coming up. Another story you're just not going to want to miss, Valentine's Day and the rising cost of restaurant reservations. 48's Callie Neese will have those details. And finally, kitchen cops. Get the latest scores from across the valley coming up. And these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And it is that time. Our 48 Facebook question of the day. If you could go on a Valentine's Day date with any fictional character, who would it be? That is what we want to know, and let's see what you all had to say. For me, honestly, I am not sure. I jokingly said Mrs. Frizzle earlier, so I guess that's who it is, Mrs. Frizzle. But let's see what you all had to say. Bonnie Bragwell said Superman. Now that would be an awesome date. You would have to, that would be insane. You can take a ride in the sky and see. That would be a romantic night. You see everything below you, see all the buildings. That would be an awesome date, Bonnie. Thank you so much for commenting. Carson Cox said Haley Upton from Chicago PD. And I have never seen Chicago PD, but awesome comment there, Carson. Thank you so much for commenting. Laura Meadows said Neo from the Matrix movies, an excellent choice. When Keanu Reeves was his younger years with his short hairstyle, 100%. He is he's mysterious. That is a good thing to add about Neo for sure. But Laura, thank you so much for commenting. And then David said Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island. Would be an awesome date, 100%. And David, thank you so much for commenting. And that is it for today's Before the Four. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Do something fun this weekend, but enjoy tonight's evening newscast. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night.